All right, let's get it. Contrary to popular belief, the Avengers aren't the good guys. I'm about to go deep, so keep an open mind and pay attention to what I'm about to say. In the end, if you disagree with my perspective, that's cool. It only costs you a few minutes of your time. I'm a huge Marvel fan. What they have accomplished in the MCU is brilliant. From the first Iron Man all the way to Endgame, they basically were telling one story. One story all culminating with the battle against Thanos. While some solo movies were better than others, I can honestly say for the most part that I enjoyed them all. So why do I say the Avengers aren't the good guys? Well, to me, it's quite obvious. They are anarchists. The Avenger symbol even resembles the anarchy symbol. Let's start with Iron Man. His first act of heroism, if you want to call it that, is him flying to a foreign country and killing soldiers raiding a village. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to focus predominantly on the MCU and not all the comic book material. Did the US government ask Iron Man to go on this mission? Did SHIELD? The answer is no. So he basically created an international incident by interfering in foreign affairs without diplomatic immunity. Those kind of events start wars, which is exactly why the government would have denied any knowledge or responsibility for his actions. He was engaged in an illegal act. Let's move on to Captain America, Winter Soldier. From our view, Cap was the hero because we knew SHIELD was basically linked with Hydra. Let's imagine for a brief second that all of this was taking place in the real world. In that scenario, Cap would be a traitor and working against the government. All the headlines, all the media coverage would report him as the villain. He was even a fugitive in his own movie. That leads us right into Captain America Civil War. Cap refuses to sign the Sokovia Accords, and in this movie he runs around with Bucky, basically becoming an international fugitive. So let's look at some other Avengers. Thor gets banished from Asgard for being obstinate. Ant-Man's mission was to sabotage a major tech company. Doctor Strange kind of stole the Time Stone. Captain Marvel quit the Kree Order and went AWOL. And then there's Black Panther. First, I just want to say RIP to Chadwick. You're gone, but not forgotten. Hey, check this out. I think some will agree with me that Killmonger was written to kind of be the hero in Black Panther. And I know that's up for debate, but I think it's a debate to be had. And he was all about anarchy. I mean, his famous speech was he wanted the world to start over. He even influenced T'Challa to stop being secluded, which is why he started the community program in Oakland. So I ask, is it a coincidence that most of the Marvel heroes are operating outside of the law, or whoever is quote unquote in control? I think not. In fact, a good thing for the Avengers would be fight the power. Now I'm going to jump over to the X-Men franchise and take a deeper dive into the major theme of their stories. Let me address the quality of the X-Men franchise first and foremost. It pales in comparison to the MCU. The majority of the movies were mediocre at best, but this isn't a critique video, so I won't spend any more time on that topic. The major theme of X-Men is inclusion and equality. Let's just be real about it. It's a metaphor for racism. Stan Lee even said his inspiration for Professor Xavier and Magneto were MLK and Malcolm X. Xavier and Magneto both wanted the same thing, they just had different views on how to achieve the outcome. Xavier's approach was peaceful, thoughtful, changed through intelligent debate, and teaching, if you will, while Magneto's approach was more extreme. His approach was radical, by any means necessary. Can you see the parallels with the civil rights struggle? Keep in mind that these characters were created back in the 60s. I know I said I wasn't going to do a critique on the X-Men movies, but I can't resist. The movie strayed away from the source material, which is why they didn't have the same success as the Avengers franchise. The Avengers franchise changed a few things here and there, but for the most part, they stayed true to the comic books. X-Men, on the other hand, strayed further and further with each movie. By the time they got to First Class, it was like the comics and previous movies didn't even exist. Now, I do have a beef with both franchises, and that beef is how the black characters, other than Black Panther, were basically portrayed as sidekicks. Sam/Falcon was basically Captain America's sidekick. Rhodey was pretty much Iron Man's sidekick. And Storm, every once in a while she'd get to shoot lightning from her fingers, but in the comics, she is the goddess of elements. She controls the weather. And as we all have witnessed in the previous years, the weather can be pretty destructive. We never got to see that on screen. And I wonder why. In my opinion, there was too much focus on Wolverine. I understand that Hugh Jackman was probably the most marketable face at that time, so he became the focal point, but it was to the detriment of the other characters. What my man say on the Temptations? They should change the name to David Ruffin and the Temptations. They should have changed the name to Wolverine and the X-Men. Every major kill, every major capture was all accomplished by Wolverine. And then he got a few solo movies, which were all mediocre too, but I digress. And just a little side note, Hugh Jackman was totally miscast as Wolverine. He was about 6'2" and kind of slim. Wolverine in the comics is supposed to be about 5'3" and stocky. The second X-Men franchise focused too much on Magneto/Michael Fassbender. Again, he was the biggest star at that time, but none of the other characters got much time to shine. So getting back to my original point, how do we define a hero? How do we distinguish the good guys from the bad guys? Do we let the government decide? Do we let the media decide? Do we let history decide? Or is it determined by one's actions and or motivations? Back in the day, Hoover called MLK a communist. I think most would consider him to be a hero by today's standards. Muhammad Ali was once considered a villain. Now he's known as the people's champ. What about the people who live in Venezuela? Would they be considered heroes or villains for speaking out against those in power? What about if you're a citizen of Russia, where the president assassinates his political adversaries? Allegedly. You see, at least in today's climate, they wouldn't be the good guys. Would they be heroes? Now that's a different question. To me, a hero fights for those who can't fight for themselves. A hero fights for what is right, even when everyone else tells them that they are wrong, including those in power. It takes courage and bravery to challenge injustice and the status quo. So the next time you see an athlete take a knee or standing arms linked in solidarity, think about their motivations. Think about the Avengers and how they challenged the system for the greater good. Well, I guess I'll leave it there for now. So if you like the way I think, hop over to Patreon. Check out some of my original short stories. It's only $1.50 per download. The link is in the description box below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss out on all future videos. Like always, thanks for your time. Peace.